I'm walking beside the Cromford Canal, which ran 14.5 miles from Cromford to the Erewash Canal at Langley Mill. The 6.5 miles of canal between Cromford and Ambergate, which lie within the nominated World Heritage Site, was constructed in the early 1790s under the direction of William Jessop, assisted by Benjamin Outram. The canal was proposed as part of a through route to Manchester, but it was not until the Cromford and High Peak Railway was constructed that this vision became a reality. Well, although I'm just outside the National Park boundary, my walk today starts here on Cromford Canal and follows the course of a disused railway line which used to cross a very large section of the Peak District. So today I'm following a trail which follows part of that disused line. Leawood Pump House was built in 1849 to pump water from the River Derwent into Cromford Canal. It is now well over 150 years old, but remains in perfect working condition thanks to the dedication of the Middleton Top and Leawood Pump Volunteer Group. At selected weekends throughout the year, the pump house is open to the public, where the power of this great steam engine can be experienced as it pumps 4 tons of water into the canal with each piston stroke. Just a short walk along the canal towpath is High Peak Junction, the site of the original workshops of the Cromford and High Peak Railway. The workshops are located at the bottom of an incline, where the railway descended from Black Rocks to the Derwent Valley to join the Midland Railway below. The workshops contain early relics of the railway, plus a model and a video show. Well, here at High Peak Junction is where I leave the Cromford Canal and start to follow the trail that begins here. This is the start of the High Peak Trail, which follows the line of the former Cromford and High Peak Railway between here and Hurdlow. The line originally connected the canals at Cromford and Whaley Bridge. Built in 1830, it was one of the earliest railways in the country, and because of the hilly terrain it passed through, it originally had 9 inclines, where the trucks were hauled up or down the inclines by stationary engines. The inclines are still visible, but only one of the winding engines has survived. The line was purchased in 1971 by Derbyshire County Council and the Peak District National Park and converted into a cycle track. I started to follow the High Peak Trail as it climbed steeply up Sheep Pasture Incline. This was a catch pit, which was built at the bottom of the incline following an accident involving runaway trucks in 1888. The remains of one of the mangled wagons can still be seen where it came to a sudden stop. At the top of Sheep Pasture Incline, the High Peak Trail levelled out as I passed the remains of the old engine house, once used to haul engines and carriages up the long incline. From here I had great views across the Derwent Valley towards Matlock and Cromford. Well, I live over there somewhere, but I can't quite see my home from here. Continuing along the High Peak Trail, I soon found myself walking beneath a huge outcrop of gritstone, sculpted by the wind and rain, so I decided to climb up to take a closer look. Black rocks hang high above Cromford, with Cromford Moor behind. It's a spectacular situation, which gives a superb view of the Derwent Valley around Matlock, and because of its popularity, the area has been designated a country park. This is a popular place for recreation, with rock climbing available on the rocks themselves and plenty of scope for walking in the park. There is also a fixed orienteering course and forest trails in the surrounding woods. From Black Rocks, I'm now going to take another detour off the High Peak Trail for a while and visit the town of Wirksworth. Wirksworth is one of the oldest towns in this part of Derbyshire. Centred around the marketplace, it has many fine old buildings, with picturesque alleys and craftsmen's yards. The town was for many years under the influence of the Gell family, who were lords of the manor based at nearby Hopton Hall. Sir Anthony Gell founded the local school in 1546, and Sir John Gell was a parliamentary general in the Civil War. Both are buried in the church. The town is now a small bustling local centre, whose main industry is limestone quarrying. It has a range of small shops and as many pubs as you would expect in an old market town. I very rarely come to Wirksworth, even though it's very close to where I live. I do have a friend who lives here, and although it's been a few years now, I used to come here fairly regularly with another friend of ours and travel by bus here to Wirksworth to see our friend, because I think Wirksworth had possibly the best pub in Derbyshire. I'll show you where it is in a minute. Wirksworth prospered through medieval times, giving rise to a fine 13th century church, which replaced a Norman one, which in turn had replaced a Saxon church. This lies to the east of the marketplace, behind the library. The Royal Oak was one of several pubs in Wirksworth that my friends and I came to. Now, to me, it was really friendly. The couple that ran it were lovely. It was oldie-worldy inside, had really nice character, and it had some excellent real ales. Just a really friendly place inside. So the Royal Oak in Wirksworth, for me, gets my vote as being possibly one of the very best pubs in Derbyshire. Back on the High Peak Trail, I came to Middleton Top, the last surviving winding engine from the Cromford and High Peak Railway. It was used to wind trucks up and down the Middleton Incline, which has a gradient of 1 in 8. Outside the engine house is a sample wagon from the old railway, and a short section of the original track, with a distinctive type of rail. Originally, these were attached to blocks of stone, rather than the usual sleepers. Next to the engine house is Middleton Top Countryside Centre, which has a visitor centre, gift shop and cycle hire centre, as well as a picnic area. Whether on foot, horse or bike, it is the perfect location to start exploring the High Peak Trail, which I continued to follow as it headed northwestwards. I soon passed Harboro Rocks, an outcrop of magnesium limestone, which has been eroded to form a line of rock pillars, very popular with a rock climbing community. Within the edge is Harboro Cave, a substantial cave which was inhabited from prehistoric times until relatively recently. From here the High Peak Trail continues through Longcliffe, beyond which it crosses into the National Park and passes below Minninglow Hill. Eventually I came to a junction where the end of another trail merges with the High Peak Trail. This is the Tissington Trail, which also follows the course of an old railway line, and I will explore this particular trail another day very soon. This was Parsley Hay railway station, which closed in 1877, but was reopened in 1894, when the line was acquired by the London and North Western Railway. Well, there's not much further to go now. I'm nearly at the end of the High Peak Trail. A few miles beyond Parsley Hay, the High Peak Trail took me to Hurdlow, the last of the old stations just before the end of the trail. Well, this is the second Royal Oak pub I've passed today. Now, this Royal Oak here at Hurdlow, again a lovely pub, and I've not been here for some years, but what I do remember about it was one night particularly I came here and had a really gorgeous meal. The food was fantastic, but what I particularly remember was the portions. There was so much of it. You don't walk away feeling hungry, so the best thing is to not eat all day before you come here, because you'll never manage the portions. They were that big. So that's more or less it, the end of the High Peak Trail, just at the top of this incline here. So it's only a few yards away, and it ends at a T-junction. So it's not a particularly exciting end to the High Peak Trail. So I'm not going to bother walking these last few yards. But what I am going to bother doing is walking a few yards back to the Royal Oak at Hurdlow, because I am gagging for a pint.